we have been told a lie about self-love. Not a malicious one, but a pervasive one. One that has shaped how an entire generation thinks about care, about kindness, and about what it means to treat yourself well. The lie goes something like this. Self-love means giving yourself what you want, rest when you are tired, comfort when you are struggling, ease when things are hard, permission to stop when stopping feels good. And there is truth in that. Rest matters. Compassion matters. Being gentle with yourself matters. But there is another truth that this version of self-love quietly ignores. A harder truth. One that the Stoics understood with a clarity that the modern world has largely lost. That the deepest form of love you can show yourself is not giving yourself what you want in the moment. It is giving yourself what you need to become who you are capable of being. And that, almost always, requires discipline. In this video, I'm going to show you why discipline is not the opposite of self-love. It is its highest expression, and how understanding this changes the way you treat yourself, your time, and your potential. Write in the comments right now, "Discipline is how I love myself." Say it before this video ends. First, discipline is a promise you keep to yourself. Think about the relationship in your life where you feel most loved, most secure, most genuinely cared for. That relationship is characterized by one thing above all others: consistency. The person shows up. They do what they say they will do. They are there not just when it is easy, but when it is inconvenient. Their care for you is demonstrated not just in words, but in repeated, reliable action over time. Now ask yourself how you treat yourself. Do you show up for yourself the way that person shows up for you? Do you do what you say you will do? Do you keep the promises you make to yourself with the same reliability that you keep the promises you make to others? For most people, the answer is no. And the Stoics would identify this immediately as a failure of self-respect, because the person who consistently breaks their promises to themselves is communicating something to their own psyche. They are saying, "I do not matter enough to follow through for." Discipline is the practice of keeping your promises to yourself, of being for yourself the kind of reliable, consistent, trustworthy presence that you would want from the people you love most. That is not punishment. That is care. Second, what you allow defines what you become. Marcus Aurelius wrote in the Meditations that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your habits, not your intentions, not your desires, your habits, the things you actually do repeatedly day after day. And here is the uncomfortable truth about habits. Every single one of them was allowed. Every tendency toward procrastination, toward avoidance, toward choosing comfort over growth was permitted, was given passage, was not met with the discipline that would have redirected it. The Stoics were ruthlessly honest about this. They did not believe in blaming circumstances for the shape of a person's character. They believed that character is built through thousands of small choices, and that each of those choices is either a vote for the person you are becoming or a vote against them. When you choose discipline over comfort, you are voting for the version of yourself that has the life you want. When you choose the easier option, you are voting against them. Neither vote is catastrophic on its own, but accumulated over months and years, these votes determine everything: the body you live in, the mind you think with, the life you are capable of building. What are you voting for? Third, the undisciplined life is not freedom. It is a different kind of prison. This is the great misunderstanding about discipline. People think that freedom means doing whatever you want whenever you want. That structure is constraint. That discipline is a cage. But the Stoics understood the paradox that most people never discover until it is too late. The person with no discipline is not free. They are enslaved to their impulses, to their moods, to their cravings, to whatever happens to feel good in the moment. They are entirely at the mercy of the weather of their own desires, and that weather changes constantly. The person with genuine discipline is the one who is actually free, free to pursue what matters, free to show up even when they do not feel like it, free to choose their actions based on their values rather than their momentary state. Epictetus, who lived as a slave for much of his life, understood freedom better than almost anyone, and he was clear: the free person is not the one with no constraints. It is the one who has mastered their own inner life, who is not a slave to their own impulses. Discipline is not the cage. Lack of discipline is. Fourth, you cannot love yourself into your potential. You have to work there. There is a version of self-care that is really just avoidance with better branding. The rest day that becomes a rest week. The self-compassion that becomes permission to stay exactly where you are. The gentle voice that says you are enough exactly as you are, which is true, but which is sometimes used to avoid becoming more than you currently are. The Stoics had enormous compassion for human weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote about his own failures with honesty and without self-hatred. Epictetus acknowledged that progress is slow and imperfect, and that this is the nature of genuine growth. But their compassion never became permission to stop, because they understood something that soft self-care sometimes forgets. You have potential that is not yet expressed. There is a version of you that is more capable, more present, more alive, more of genuine use to the world than the version that exists today. And that version is not reached through comfort. It is reached through the daily, unglamorous, sometimes painful practice of doing the hard thing. Loving yourself means honoring that potential, not just accepting where you are, but taking seriously where you could be. That is not cruelty. It is the deepest kind of respect. Fifth, discipline creates the life that self-pity can only dream about. This is where it becomes most practical. Think about the outcomes you most want in your life: the health, the work, the relationships, the inner peace, the sense of being genuinely useful and genuinely alive. Now trace those outcomes back to their causes. What actually produces them? Not wishing, not wanting, not the occasional burst of motivation that burns bright for 3 days and then disappears. Consistent, disciplined action. Repeated so many times that it becomes habit. So many times that the extraordinary outcome begins to feel like the natural result of an ordinary practice. Seneca wrote that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and preparation is discipline applied over time. The person who works on their health every day, not because they feel like it, but because they have decided it matters, builds the body that the person who waits for motivation can only envy. The person who works on their craft every day, in the unglamorous middle of the project, when the excitement has faded and the end is not yet in sight, builds the skill that looks effortless from the outside. Discipline is not the path of suffering. It is the path to the life that self-pity, comfort, and avoidance will never produce. Start today. Not perfectly, not with a complete overhaul, with one act of discipline, one promise kept to yourself, one moment where you choose what you need over what you want. And tomorrow, do it again. The Stoics did not believe in transformation through grand gestures. They believed in the compounding effect of small, consistent choices made deliberately over a long period of time. That is how character is built. That is how a life is shaped. That is how you become, slowly and irreversibly, someone you are genuinely proud to be. Discipline is not punishment. It is not deprivation. It is not the absence of joy. It is the most honest and the most lasting form of love you can offer yourself. That is the ViaStoica, the Stoic path, and it is chosen one disciplined moment at a time, every single day. If this video gave you something you needed, subscribe to ViaStoica. Every week, ancient wisdom for the life you're actually trying to build. Write in the comments one area of your life where you are going to choose discipline over comfort starting today. I read every single one. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, 2,000 years ago, still true today. See you on the path.